Hi, I'm Edwin Samuelson. Welcome to the Cinefiles, your weekly film.
Wow,
Today,
that's me.
You see by my hat. We're going to be talking about.
Hey, I don't have to say anything.
In fact, I'm wearing.
I'm being dubbed.
My fair bands, so I just happened to see in concert with Stooges, and in fact, they're going to be, I think, an inspiration to a lot of the bands that we'll be talking about today. But today,
just mouth it.
Yes, Cinema, and I want to introduce my my co-host here to my left, Eric Cohen.
Hi, I'm Edwin Samuelson, and welcome to the Cinefiles. It is 2009, therefore, it is time to review unveil our list of the 5 best movies of 2008. Today,
I guess that would be our individual list.
Our individual, yes. For each, all 4 of us will be unveiling our list of top 5 best movies of 2008, and we'll elaborate on why we thought they were the best, and so on. Anyway, let me introduce my panel. To my left, Eric Cohen. To his left, Jeff Galashaw, and to his left, Michael Foltz. All right, guys, well, let's jump into this. I'm really, really excited because this is going to be a fun show. This year was actually a very strong year for movies. I was very surprised.
Why do you say that?
I found, actually, I saw quite a few films that I really enjoyed this year. I mean, I could say there's a lot of them, but the ones that I really enjoyed. And I haven't really...
On both DVD and the movie theater, or just mainly at the theater?
Both, actually. There's been a lot of interesting things being released.
Why does it matter if they were all released last year anyway?
Just something to talk about.
It's good. It was a good year.
And not to mention, I'd like to disagree with you because while 2008 had a lot of films I did enjoy, I found a lot of the films that were more critically acclaimed or liked by critics, I found them like more middle of the road. They were okay, but not great.
Well, I could kind of agree with you. Like the films that I believe, which the Oscars were just announced, I don't agree that those are the best choices. In fact, there's a very big omission from that list, which I'll be talking about today.
I agree with both of you guys that I think it was probably one of the most disappointing lists for Best Picture I've ever seen.
It was a pretty...
Even though, to be fair, there are movies in there that I have not seen, but these are movies I have not seen for a reason, just because the trailer and the story synopsis didn't grab me, so thus I wasn't interested.
I would say this is a great year for under-the-radar films.
I would say this is a great year for certain mainstream movies that really exceeded expectations.
Well,
I guess we're all sort of agreeing with each other and not agreeing with each other.
well, and I agree with you.
And I love you.
Okay. So let's move on. We're all in agreement. Okay.
Let's get to the topic.
So let's jump into this. I'm going to start off with you, Mike. Number 5 on your list. What is the best film of 2000?
Well, you know something? These top 5 lists or top 10 lists or whatever, since they're really not that well thought out, we think about them, we make a list, but there's always one of those movies that you think, I should have put that in. Anyway, I'll throw this in. A little-known documentary that came out by the wonderful Werner Herzog called Encounters at the End of the World.
Awesome.
Which was playing at the Film Forum, and it's really just a great snapshot into the lives of people that live and work down in Antarctica, with the wonderfully dry and unintentionally hilarious commentary by the Teutonic master himself, Werner Herzog.
The insipid rantings of an academic fool.
And I have to ask you this. Now, Herzog basically was a feature film director. Now he's moved into documentaries. He's made some really highly acclaimed documentaries.
He's really mastered that field, even for something as mundane as studying scientists in the Antarctic. I mean, he comes up with these wonderful things. He literally, at some point, is interviewing one of these scientists trying to pull things out of this guy's mouth. And he's saying things like, do you think human beings evolved because they were escaping the horrors from the sea that they encountered? And the guy's like, yeah, that sounds probably about right. And then they're talking about this penguin that they want to stop from going away from the herd and going up into a mountain to, I guess, commit suicide like a penguin would do. And then you just hear this voiceover. is it possible that there is a thing called Penguin Madness? And it's a wonderful, wonderful film, and it was a great film to see on the big screen.
It's beautifully shot. We should add, though, the story behind the film. It wasn't his idea. His co-producer originally went to the Antarctic to do a music project, and he fell so in love with the Antarctic and the strange eccentrics there. He came to Werner Herzog and said, "You should do a documentary on this. I'll help you produce it." And he's featured very briefly in the film. It's that scene where the two scientists are on top of their shed and they're doing the little rock jam. Well, one of those guys is the actual producer of the movie.
Well, let's move on because we have a lot. We have 19 more films here to discuss.
Yeah.
Or supposedly.
Yes. Now, Jeff, you have what is your number 5 of these?
My number 5 is
So
actually,
professional with the list.
No, I have a bad memory these days.
So do
okay, I got overworked. Slumdog Millionaire, which I know topped a lot of people's list, and
My number 3, for the record.
You're supposed to tell us that later.
Yeah, later. Geez, stop
We went over the
recording it on
rules
my time.
earlier.
I'm barely talking now.
Please, spoil list too.
We're not gonna repeat what the other person repeated.
No,
But you can,
I hope so.
you can mention that was also on your list.
Yeah, but for Slumdog Millionaire, more than anything, I think with this film, even though he already was one, this one cements Danny Boyle again as an auteur, not director for hire, more or less.
I agree with that 100%.
Because he keeps taking projects that are more challenging than just taking when he could easily take a studio job to direct, I don't know, something like, let's say, Terminator 4, where he could just say, okay, I'm going to do this and just make a few $1 million, and it really doesn't challenge me at all. Instead, he goes out and finds stories and films where he tries to think, how am I going to film this? How can I make this interesting, not only to me, but to an audience? And I applaud him for that.
Well, I'm going to go into this, and you guys are going to hate me for this, because I'm actually discussing this film on another show, which is our most disappointing. I thought this was one of the most overrated films I've seen in some time. I thought it was a good film. I did enjoy it, but I did not think it was as good as people were saying.
Now,
I don't think it's the best film this year.
what was your problem with it?
I did like some of the ideas where the game show is intertwined with his life, where he knows the answers to these questions based on his, elements in his life. But I've seen the elements in his life told in so many other films.
Yeah, it's like a Dickens novel.
Yeah, it's like Mean Streets, but in India.
But I can tell you one thing that'll piss you off.
I don't think it's...
Jordan Hoffman agrees with you.
Really?
Yes.
Oh God! That's the best film of the year.
But ironically, I think it has nothing. It's not even close to Mean Streets. I don't think so.
No. What it is I love the fucking film. It is one of my favorite films of the year. I take this team here. The whole point of the film was Danny Boyle was trying to juxtapose a realistic drama with the whole Bollywood conceit that's popular with the whole Indian film. So on one hand, you have this like really fantastical element that's almost melodramatic in a Dickensian way, but the other hand, you have these moments of realism, kitchen sink realism. And I'm always blown away by Danny Boyle's work. This was yet another great film.
I think Danny Boyle is the closest thing to we have.
You know what I feel
to Stanley Kubrick.
You know what I think? I feel it was a lot
Just
like,
a lot
honestly,
more warm a filmmaker.
The film felt a lot to me like one of my favorite films of the last 10 years. In fact, I would say it's probably the best film of the last 10 years. Maybe is City of God. It's very much like the Brazilian film City of God in a lot of respects.
But City of God is a much darker film.
Yeah, it's a lot.
City of God is a much grittier
uplifting
film. It's I don't think the intent. I think the intent was he was trying to juxtapose realism with fantasy.
I thought it was a good film.
Like
I just
melodrama
didn't think
fantasy.
it was the best film of the year. I mean, I didn't dislike. I just didn't think it was as
You're
good as
wrong.
people said.
Let's move on.
Hey, okay.
Well, it's your turn.
All right,
It's my turn.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to throw out a
turn.
film that came out at the beginning of last year. It got really good reviews, but a lot of people didn't see it. And it was almost forgotten, and it was briefly recognized at the Golden Globes. That's In Bruges.
Yes.
On my list.
Completely took me by surprise when I saw it, because I'm not a huge, Colin Farrell fan. But he's great in it. Definitely the best performance I've ever seen him do.
As good as Tigerland?
Tiger, please.
He's very good in No, he's great in Tigerland. I don't like the
Tigerland's
movie.
awesome.
He blows.
Brendan
Tiger
Gleeson
away.
is wonderful, and Ralph Fiennes, man, it's like he takes the Ben Kingsley Award in this film. Ben Kingsley was so brilliant, and you had that great role in Sexy Beast that sort of like reinvigorated his career. Well, it's a similar role for Ralph Fiennes, and he's just great. It's a really honest to good, funny movie. It's a very touching movie. and I loved In Bruges.
I give so much credit. It's my number 2 film.
Dude,
it was
you're
for the
so-
longest time, but
Forget
it
it.
was one of those movies that you give a lot of credit to the writer and director, Martin McDonagh. He is
Martin
just,
McDonagh, who's an amazing playwright. Amazing playwright.
it is one of the most quotable
It's his first
films.
film and his first directed film.
It's just so goddamn silly. It's a goddamn silly movie, but like you said, it's got touching spots in it. It's got dark tones in it. It's not like a lighthearted farce or anything.
No, it's
but
more of a dark
It's
comedy.
very much a dark.
Colin Farrell, I will go out on a limb and say Colin Farrell, if he keeps acting like this, he'll completely turn his career around.
We need to rush this up
But,
because we haven't even gotten it.
One of his first sober performances.
Yeah.
And don't
So
unveil your
we
list.
liked it.
Surprise it. All right. My number 5 of the year was a film that I was really surprised by. I mean, I heard the story didn't really sound interesting to me, but I saw it and I really enjoyed it. It was a film called Stuck by Stuart Gordon, which is loosely based on a true life case of a woman who hits a homeless man and it gets stuck in her windshield, and she fails to do anything about it, and the man lived for 2 days and then dies. It sounds like it's not much ado about nothing, but the performance by Stephen Ray is so moving. It really makes the film worthwhile. Stephen Ray is one of our best actors today, and this movie shows it. I don't know if you
I
guys have
agree
seen it
with
yet.
that,
seen it.
actually. Stephen
I
Ray's
saw it.
very good.
I thought he was terrific. He was so good in the movie. I mean, it was very well done.
I likes me some Stephen Ray, but I have not seen Stuck.
Well, you should see it. All right, Mike. Number 4 for you.
Number 4 would be what I think was probably my favorite genre movie of the year, which was Iron Man. Iron Man is just one of the biggest surprises because I didn't think too much of Jon Favreau as a director, but I knew that casting Robert Downey Jr. as the playboy millionaire genius developer Tony Stark and Iron Man was a coup. And I wasn't sure about the other actors like Gwyneth Paltrow or Terrence Howard. And I was a little bit skeptical of Jeff Bridges as the villain. But boy, Favreau brought the whole cast and crew together, brought a solid retelling of the story of Iron Man. It could have been a complete disaster. We could have had Tom Cruise in it. We could have had him sealed in his armor permanently. We didn't do any of that. He stayed true and made a wonderful, wonderful genre piece, which I think for me edged out.
We do have to hurry it up, dude. Come on.
Edged out The Dark Knight a little bit for best comic book movie.
Okay, my next film, I would like to say the film, but I know somebody who can speak more passionately about it, so I'll pick something else on my list. I would like to say 4 months, 3 weeks, and 2 days. It was next on my list because I enjoyed it, even though I'm not exactly sure exactly when it came out, but I saw it in 2008, and a lot of critics put it on their best of 2008 list, and I really enjoyed it.
Why?
One of the main reasons I enjoyed it was because
Well, tell us a little bit about it. I mean, I don't.
it's about a woman in 1980s, I believe it's Germany.
No, Romania.
Romania, who is trying to get an abortion where they're. Let's not argue geography, but it's about a woman who wants to get an abortion. It's illegal. And so her friend is trying to pull all these measures to try and get the woman an abortion. And it's just a very emotional film. And surprisingly, it's very graphic towards the end, which I didn't expect. But I really enjoyed the film. And at the risk of sounding pretentious, I just really enjoyed it.
Well, I haven't seen this one, but I will check it out based on your recommendation. What about you, Eric?
Well, first of all, I'm confused by our format here because my top 5 films,
What's number
already
4?
people are mentioning stuff that's on my list.
Well, you can just mention.
And
you
also,
mention
my
something.
list is in no discernible order. I don't have, not one is better than the other one. So I'm just going to throw out my next one, Dark Knight. You know, one of the most hyped movies of the year, one of the rare films that didn't disappoint in terms of all the hype.
Maybe the best Batman movie ever.
Probably very close to being the best Batman
Very well
movie ever.
Competes with Batman Begins.
But what surprised me most about The Dark Knight was it was an ensemble piece. You know, even though Batman is the hero, the Joker is the villain, I was surprised at how much of an ensemble piece it was and how much face time, face, get it? Two-Face got. You know, and Aaron Eckhart was great as Harvey Dent. It was
Michael
fantastic.
Caine did an even better job
Michael
as
Caine
Alfred.
kicked fucking ass, and I loved how every single character had a history.
And I love
You know?
comparing this to the original Batman because it's so interesting is that you see the Joker and you see Batman, and then you see how a person can interpret a character and make it so different. As you know, the first one's really, I don't know even how to, I'm talking the original Tim Burton film, is a really off-the-wall, zany, crazy type movie with some, you know, some
it's all about
dated.
aesthetic.
It's very dated.
This one very hyper stylized.
And we have to give Heath Ledger credit. I mean, people are just saying he's getting the Oscar nomination, or he's going to get the Oscar because he died. But he was phenomenal.
Disappointed by that. I don't think that Heath Ledger doesn't deserve the accolades, but I also think Christian Bale brought it, to as much as one could bring it for Bruce Wayne and Batman. I mean,
it wasn't one of those films where like the villain overshadows the hero, or the hero,
they were
I
equal.
felt like it was very equal, and it was a fine balance. I was really happy that the whole, he dies is his last great performance thing. It wasn't overhyped. Heath Ledger is that good in the film. But I love, like I mentioned before, I like the little moments that gave you a certain window in the history of the characters. Like one of my favorite moments in the movie is when Michael Caine reveals this bit about his past, where it was so fascinating. It was just this little tidbit. What was he, like a mercenary in another life or something like that? And it was just really interesting. I even thought Morgan Freeman was great.
He was great. I like it too, One thing that's very common these days, is that you have a film that doesn't rehash the original. It's a real continuation of the other film.
Right.
And I really thought that they worked together. I mean, you could put these two together as one film and they really feel like they're part of each other.
No, because we have to move on. I did have one problem with the film.
What's that?
I thought that whole bit with the two dueling ferries,
The ships.
Yes.
that was strangely written and acted. It felt out of place. I'm not sure if
was
it
a little
didn't fit.
overwrought.
I didn't know if it
A little
didn't fit
overwrought.
into the film, but it didn't feel. It felt like they could have tightened that or something.
I probably, to be fair, I mean, I don't know what Nolan, if he might have gone back for some reshoots, but you had to have the Joker for that. And
What's
we did
yours?
All right, well, number
Joker.
4 was a film I was very surprised I enjoyed as much as I did, and that film would be Gran Torino with Clint Eastwood. Clint Eastwood I've always enjoyed, and it's great to see him at 78 years old still acting and directing and being at the top of his game. He made 2 films last year, The Changeling, which I really didn't think too much, and this one, which I do think is a real character-driven piece. It's not anything new or original, but it's a fun ride, very well acted by Clint Eastwood, and he carries the entire movie.
I haven't seen the film, but I also view Clint Eastwood as maybe one of the most overrated directors in Hollywood.
Oh, I don't.
I find his stuff so uneven that it's really...
Yes and no.
disconnect.
I sort of agree with you. I sort of don't. I still, to this day, give him props for Unforgiven, which I think is one of the best westerns ever made. But I do find that, I thought Mystic River was very disappointing.
So did I.
I thought Letters from Iwo Jima was amazing.
But the other
Letters from
Flags
Iwo
of Our
Jima was
Fathers
great.
And what's sad is that
It was
Letters
great.
from Iwo Jima probably would have done better if Flags of Our Fathers didn't come out, I think, honestly. But anyway, let's go on to...
I was going to say just a quick thing about Gran Torino. I enjoyed the film, but I found that was the only interesting thing was his performance in the film. The rest of it, I mean, the story was interesting, but even the professional actors, I didn't find interesting, and the non-professional actors were horrible.
They weren't very good, but
And
Clint
they
Eastwood
weren't
is the
needed.
movie. Clint Eastwood is the movie. That's why I
That's
liked
pretty
it.
much it.
And he's terrific. He's great. One of his best performances.
Well, my
Mike, what is
number
your
3 is
number 3?
easy. It's Slumdog Millionaire. What Jeff said, everything that I completely agree with. The only thing I can add is I saw it twice in the movie theater, and I enjoyed it just as much the second time as I saw it the first time, because the first time you see it, you got a lot of different little surprises in there.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to give kudos to 2 actors in there. I don't know their names, but one actor is the game show host. I think his name's Anil Kapoor.
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong on that. He's wonderful. And the children's the Fagin, the leader of the thieves, Momon or whatever. Great
I
actor.
thought we were
Okay.
repeating with other people.
No, he just
he's supposed to
mentioned
say, okay, that's on my list as well, and that number 3.
Okay,
Okay, number
then-
3 for you.
Well, I'm just going straight to my number
Go
2. Let the Right One In, which is a foreign film, which is basically about vampires, but it has to deal with more like children. Excuse me for my hoarse voice. It's not like it's that emotional. But I really enjoyed the film. When I first started watching the film, I didn't think it was all that interesting for the first half hour, but after that, more surprising things in the film happened that I would have never thought of if I had been, let's say, trying to write or make a vampire film.
I agree with you more.
And I really enjoyed it, especially the ending. I'm not going to say what happens.
Don't say, but let me tell you something. I agree with you 100%. What saddens me is whenever you have a film about a werewolf or a vampire or whatever, you're always trapped by certain rules. I love how they somewhat follow the rules a little loosely, but yet they add all these new ideas. It's beautifully shot, one of the most beautifully shot films I've seen in a while, and I love where it went with the characterizations, with the girl who has a little secret. In addition to being a vampire, there's some more little subtext there, which is pretty sick and pretty subtle.
Which you wouldn't expect.
Which we know will not be in the remake.
Of course
Absolutely not. All right, what about you?
Oh boy, I'll tell you from that. I have not seen the film yet, but from both your guys' review, I can't wait to see it.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I'm dying to see it. I'm just going to throw this out there. I know you guys are going to be pissed off that I'm saying this now because I know it's on a lot of people's number one spots. But like I said, I didn't have one favorite film of the year, so it doesn't really matter.
Go spit it out.
The Wrestler.
Ruin it.
The Wrestler is fucking amazing. I was prepared to be slightly disappointed by it because of all the hype leading up to it, but I love this film. Mickey Rourke absolutely nails it. I do consider his performance the best performance of the year. And it's just this incredible character study about, we were talking about the movie after you saw it, and Mike nailed it. He's just this character that just is so used to fucking up all the time that he just doesn't know how to live any other way. And it's really sad, it's really grim, but it's also a surprisingly funny movie too.
Well, one of the things I liked about the film, surprisingly, was that I finally liked that Aronofsky seems to have finally learned how to direct. Because he doesn't cut away or edit with 20 million chops. He knows how to tell a story, finally visually, and trusting his actors more than showing us, oh, look at this surreal shot, or look, I put $50 million into this shot.
The fountain it ain't.
Thank God.
You would never, ever, if somebody showed you this film sight unseen and then at the end of it said who directed it, you would never guess Aronofsky.
Exactly.
You'd say I would guess Ken Loach before I would say Aronofsky.
We gotta move it on, guys. I'm sorry. All right. Well, my number 3 was Let the Right One In, just to let you know. Okay. So, Mike, I'm gonna give it back to you. What is your number 3 there?
Number two would be what we talked about earlier, In Bruges, one of the most quotable movies. Colin Farrell, Brendan Gleeson, Ray Fiennes, once again, tour de force. I want to go visit Bruges.
All right.
Bruges, Belgium, because of that movie.
Okay. Well, this is actually my number 1 of the year, which is quite.
We'll save it then, because we all want to.
Okay, then you can go straight to Eric.
Go Eric.
Well, I'm just going to say it was like Slumdog Millionaire. It's in that list somewhere. I'm just going to be repeating what everyone else said.
Okay. Well, my number 2 would be The Dark Knight, just to make that clear, and we've already discussed that. So now we can really dive into the best of the year for everybody. Now, Mike, what is your
ruined it for me, Mr. I don't have an order. The Wrestler, yeah, best movie of the year. I like Eric. I was a little worried about the hype because Aronofsky hasn't exactly blown my shoes off. But Mickey Rourke, man, and Marissa Tomei, who 44 has never and will never look so good, so naked.
Before the Devil
God!
Is quite luscious.
And the film is just fucking brilliant.
Okay, my number 1 is a film we've actually discussed on a previous show, and it is Wreck. That is the film I would have to say. It might not be necessarily the best made film, but it was the most fun I've ever had watching a film. And I think that's because when I watched it, there were no subtitles, so I had to go purely by what I was seeing.
Same with me.
And that really awoken me to everything that was happening in the film. And it set an atmosphere. I can't say it was the best performance because I don't speak Spanish, but it was to me.
You believed it.
Yes, it was like a revolution was going on in my head while watching that film. That was how crazy it was. And please skip Quarantine. It is a piece of shit. Watch Wreck if you're going to watch that story.
I had a copy of that, huh? All right.
I was going to quickly throw it in. My number 1 would have been The Wrestler, but I got to throw Iron Man in there. It was already talked about. So.
Well, my number 1 film is the one I'm very surprised. Actually, it's a tie. Wreck was tied with a film I'm very surprised to admit was my number 1, but I have to admit it warmed me up. I loved every minute of it, which is WALL-E. WALL-E is perhaps
that almost made my top.
WALL-E is perhaps one of the finest animated films I've seen. It's brilliant that it has social commentary for adults about how corporations are destroying the world and the economy, but yet it's in there where it's not so obvious and kids can enjoy it as well. I felt like a child watching it again.
But
wonderfully animated too.
I had a friend that said she didn't like it because she didn't like being preached to, but I give Pixar all the credit in the world, because if I'm going to be preached to, I want to be preached at like that, because not only does it dump on a lot on corporate corporate America or the corporations of the world and how they deal with us. It dumps a lot on human beings too, how we're so in our faces and our gadgets, our iPods and our little Blackberries and whatever, and it talks about what big fat asses we're going to be in the future and how we're all going to be on these roving bikes, and it's kind of grim.
Isn't it
It's kind of
brilliant,
grim, but it has a very uplifting ending, which is nice, and it just is funny that it seems like the robots make more of a emotional connection with each other than the humans do, although that kind of changes towards the end. And the animation is just top notch. Once again, it's like Encounters at the End of the World. It's something that really can't be appreciated on a small screen. You got to see it up on the big screen.
I highly recommend
and
that.
plenty of moments of silent comedy within it that I enjoyed.
You know what I love too? It really reminded me of like the Roadrunner and the old Roadrunner cartoons where the character doesn't speak but has the emotions. It was wonderful. Every moment of it. I didn't want it to end. I really felt like a child.
I haven't seen Wall-E.
And also there's some great when the actual human characters that are in there are great. And also Sigourney Weaver actually has a cameo as the voice of the computer. Which I thought was kind of amusing.
And it was the only film that I
Homage to
saw.
Alien.
It was the only film I saw that where I actually liked a roach.
Oh yes, the Roach character was very wonderful.
Are there many
Fred
movies
Willard
out
in
there
it.
with a roach as the lead character and you didn't
Bugs
like any
Life.
of them?
Cameo.
Okay.
Well, I think 2008 was actually a pretty good year for movies. I was. Any surprises though? Something that you were very surprised with that you liked the most? I mean, was there anything that you just? I mean, because there's stuff you were going in there expecting to love it. Is there anything that surprised you?
Surprised at how much I loved it?
Yes.
The promotion with Sean William Scott and John C. Reilly. I don't usually like
that's an
Sean
interesting
William
choice.
Scott, and I really enjoyed the film, and I felt he finally made his first really dramatic role he's ever played, and he wasn't actually bad in it. I mean,
I will say that my most disappointing film of the year, not disappointing. I will say, well, disappointing
Well, we
and
gotta
the worst.
save that for the
would be
disappointing show.
No. For the worst movie of 2008 was Doomsday. Neil Marshall's salute,
That was pretty
homage
awful. I agree with
to
you.
Jesus Christ, every film you could think of, Escape from New York, Excalibur, The Road Warrior, but all done piss poor. 28 Days Later. You take all those movies, put them in. You take all four of
Blender.
these great movies, put them in a blender, and then I don't know, open the lid, take a big shit in there, and then blend it some more, and that's what you got. Doomsday. It's a piece of garbage.
I think I can beat you on worst of the year. I think The Spirit would be the worst film.
Did not
Well, I
see
haven't
it.
seen
Well,
it, so
I
And
saw
none of
the
the
trailer
films.
and didn't
Look,
want to see it.
I don't have a most disappointed of 2008 because every film I saw I had expectations going in, and generally it either met my expectations or it was better than I thought. But Iron Man was the film that pleasantly surprised me in a way. I went in there expecting a typical summer blockbuster. I was so surprised at how sophisticated and witty. I mean, it's like a screwball comedy from the 30s.
I'm very surprised how well it was done. I'm not a big Jon Favreau fan.
And what really made the film was, well, Favreau really
Downey Jr. was the secret
brought in
option.
his A game, but the cast, Robert Downey Jr., Jeff Bridges, even what's her name, Gwyneth Paltrow. You know,
Who I
that's what she's
strongly
done.
dislike.
I
Yeah,
don't like her.
I
She's
don't
good in
like
it.
her either, and I
Yeah.
liked her in this.
It's
you
a
know-
sad thing too that Terrence Howard is not going to be in the sequel too. I think that's going to be a
And he
major
was good too.
loss.
There was a believable rapport among all the actors and the characters they were playing, and it just made it that much better.
Wait, now
Oh,
why
oh,
was Edwin? Why was The Spirit disappointing? Why did you dislike it?
It's just a piece of shit. That's all I can say.
But were you thinking it wasn't going to be a piece of shit with all the press that came out? Because everyone said it was going to suck.
I was just it was just something I said, why not? And I checked it out, and I was like, holy shit! How wonder Lionsgate lowered their stock
What was
rating.
the bad part? Because I didn't want to see it based on Samuel Jackson's.
More on another show. Anyway, until next week, we will discuss this. Look out for it.
I mean, I looked at him as the octopus and thought, you got to be fucking kidding me. That was horrible.
Well, I'm not gonna kid you. I saw some of it because I got it, online.